back, ladies and gentlemen. Jurors and alternates all are present. And People versus Robert Durst. Mr. Durst is present with Mr. Chesnoff and Mr. DeGuerin, Mr. Bailey, and joined by Mr. Miata, Mr. Henderson, Mr. Milius, and Mr. Lewin. I see. Do we have Ms. Pham is doing is taking over the reading responsibilities of the prosecutor and also of the judge.
Yes.
Mr. Chesnoff, I understand, is going to take some time reading, doing his best impression of Mr. DeGuerin and Mr. Ramsey. And we'll come back, our reader of Mr. Durst's testimony. And let's resume where we left off at the lunch hour.
I think we were at 145, line 3, Your Honor. There's a cell phone call that appears in the records, and it's hard to tell what it is, but it's at or near 1 p.m. and a Galveston cell site. Do you have any idea that you were still in Galveston Do you think you were still in Galveston at 1 p.m.?
No, sir.
Well, did you go to New Orleans?
Yes, sir.
Did you drive straight to New Orleans?
Yes, sir.
After you got there, sir, did you find out anything about the marijuana and the money?
Well, not until the next day when I opened up the car and it stank of marijuana. And there's a compartment underneath the rear lid, and I opened up that compartment, and the money and the marijuana were both there.
How'd they get there, sir? Do you know how they got there? Can you tell us your best estimate of how they got there?
I guess I don't know how they got there.
You guess what?
I guess I don't know how they got there.
There were, well, let me ask you this, Mr. Durst. On how many of these 4 days did you make some effort, or actually the 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, how many of those days did you make some effort to clean up and get ready to leave? Do you know?
I would think I did something every day.
We are talking about these days here, Mr. Durst. We're talking about the end of September and the beginning of October. We're talking about these 3 days here, the 29th, 30th, and the 1st, where we still see you in town around 1 o'clock. Did you go back to the K Street address in one fashion or another in all 3 of those days?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Sistrunk, on his opening statement, accused you of being cold and calculating during this period of time, taking newspapers over there to read them and things of that sort. Was there anything cold or calculated about any of these activities, sir?
I don't know.
Well, after you got to New Orleans, sir, there are, pardon me just a moment, let me ask you this, and maybe the best way to ask it is simply this. Is your recollection of those 3 days, or those 4 days, really from the 29th through the 1st clear and precise and crystal?
Not precise, and not crystal, and not clear.
Were you using halcyon each of those nights?
On the 29th and the 30th, I know I did. I don't know about the 28th.
Were you smoking marijuana every one of those days?
Yes.
And after you got to New Orleans, sir, can you remember arriving there? Can you remember what you did after you first got to New Orleans?
I got there early in the evening. I don't remember what I did.
If I suggest to you, sir, that there are records and evidence as defendant's exhibit number 49 that show activity on the New Orleans phone where you will call the director assistance at 9:01 and then a call to the Galveston County Daily News. It is the way it says it on there, the Galveston newspapers at any rate. Do you remember calling Galveston the 4th of October?
No.
What was going through your mind when you went to New Orleans, sir? What were you thinking about? Were you making plans to do something?
Well, sort of planning to live in that apartment in New Orleans.
Were you going to live as yourself or as someone else?
Definitely as someone else.
Did you make any plans as what to do with your car?
Yeah, I thought that I would do sort of what I did the first time around Galveston and leave the car someplace or other. And I decided I would find some place in the woods outside of New Orleans to hide the car.
Well, what steps, if any, did you take to do that? Find a place to hide or dump the car?
Well, I drove about an hour outside of New Orleans, and I found an old logging trail or road or whatever, and drove down the logging road. and there was a tree trunk across the logging trail. And I got out of the car and I walked a ways down it, and I decided that if I left the car there, nobody would ever find it.
Could you get past the log?
Yeah, I couldn't get the car past the log, no.
What'd you do?
Well, then I went back to New Orleans, and there's a hardware store right near the apartment I'd rented. I went in and I bought a bow saw.
You went all the way back there, pardon me, all the way back into New Orleans from the River Road
Yes, sir?
to a hardware store near where you had your apartment?
Yeah, 3 or 4 blocks away.
This bow saw that's in evidence that we have testimony about not ever having been used, the one that was recovered from the back of your car?
It was the one that was in the back of the car, is the one bow saw I bought from that hardware.
After you bought the bow saw, did you proceed with your plan?
I never used it.
Well, you didn't dump your car on a logging road then, I take it?
No?
Well, ultimately, after making the various plans, Mr. Durst, what plan did you decide to what did you do?
Well, that was Saturday, Sunday. The next day, Monday the 8th, I decided I would drive to Galveston and hire a lawyer.
Look at this then, sir. Here is October. We have established that you left Galveston Monday the 1st. You see some phone calls, I believe, on the 2nd to the Galveston newspaper from New Orleans. And then the next time we see something, some record, and by the way, the records that are in evidence, are they a benefit to you in reconstructing and remembering what happened and when they happened?
Without the records, I have no ability to do it.
So then if I tell you, sir, have you seen records and evidence of you checking into the Holiday Inn Express in Galveston, Texas on the 8th of October?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember checking into that motel?
Oh, I tried to get into 2 motels before. They wanted identification. So when I got to the Holiday Inn Express, they did not ask for identification. So I checked in there.
What time of day or night was it when you got there? Your best recollection, sir.
Early in the evening.
If I suggest to you the record seems to indicate 9:53 p.m., would that jibe with your recollection?
That would be fine.
What did you do after I am told I misspoke. I should have said 8:53. I think I said 9:53. The truth of it is the record says 8:53.
That's fine too.
Do you really remember, Mr. Durst?
I said early in the evening. That's early in the evening.
What did your best recollection, what did you do after you got the Holiday Inn Express back here in Galveston?
I went to the New Orleans a couple of blocks to Arlen's and bought dessert.
Bought dessert at Arlen's, and then what?
I went to sleep. The next day would be, oh, that's a question.
I guess that's a question, yeah. The next day would be Tuesday, October the 9th. Do you remember what did you do on that day?
I woke up early, and when I got to Galveston, I remembered that I had put the laundry in the back seat in the back of the Honda. And I had taken a couple of blankets and stuff to a dry cleaner in New Orleans, and I had a couple of garbage bags of laundry in the back of the Honda. And I remembered when I got to the room at night that there were machines across the hall from the hotel room, the motel room. So I went down and I got the laundry and I put it in the machines. And then it was 7:30, like that, too early to call a lawyer. So I drove downtown and walked around for a while.
Did you leave the laundry going?
Yeah.
Then after you walked around a while, you have heard testimony here about a visit to Dr. Motocha's office on that day. Do you recall going on the 9th of October to Dr. Motocha's office?
Yes, to pick up the glasses that I had ordered the previous, I guess, week ago, that Monday.
Mr. Durst, weren't they ordered in the name of Robert Durst?
Yes.
Had you called a lawyer yet?
No, sir.
What happened next after you left the optometrist's office?
I got arrested.
Do you remember how many police officers?
There were a lot of police officers.
Withdrawn guns, the whole thing?
Yes.
You have heard a description of the arrest by one of the detectives here in court. Is that reasonably accurate? Did you see it that way?
The description I had heard by Detective Cazales, I think his experience arresting me was different than the experience I had being arrested.
Well, did you ultimately, sir, Did you go to jail?
Yes, sir.
Is Detective Casales correct that he told you that the bond had been set at $250,000?
Yes.
And what did you said about causing a bond to be made, not making it yourself?
Yes, sir.
And were you in fact released the next day?
Yes, sir.
That would be the 10th, when you were released. Is that correct, the 10th?
Yes, sir.
When you were released, sir, did you have any shoes?
No, sir.
Any identification?
No, sir.
Any money?
No, sir.
What did you do? What happened relative to you and the bondsman and the lawyer, if the lawyer participated?
The bondsman got me out of jail and drove me to his office on the Seawell. And the lawyer, Mark Kelly, was there with the bondsman when I got there.
All right, sir, do you remember where you spent the night?
Well, I didn't have any credit cards or license or money or anything. So the bondsman took a motel room for the next 2 nights right near Walmart.
What did you do about the shoes and clothes situation?
I think he had $40 or something like that he loaned me. I went to Walmart and bought that stuff.
Shoes?
Yes.
Do you know whether you bought anything else?
Yes, some clothes and some toiletries like that.
Did you spend the night in the motel?
Yes.
Do you remember the name of it?
I think it is Casa Loma or Casa Lisa, something like that. It's a sweet motel right next to Walmart.
On the seawall?
Yes.
That takes us then to the 11th. What happened on the 11th to your recollection, sir?
Well, the bondsman had agreed to take $2,000 out of his bank the next day and to loan me the $2,000.
Did he?
Yes.
What'd you do?
I took a taxi to Houston and a Greyhound to New Orleans.
After you got to New Orleans, sir, did you go back to the same apartment?
Yes, sir.
What did you do after you got there?
I got there pretty late at night on...
That would have been the 11th. Am I understanding you? You would have been leaving down, taking a taxi in a Greyhound on Thursday the 11th.
I got there pretty late. I didn't do anything after I got there.
And that would give you Friday. That would be the next day, right?
Yes, sir.
What, if anything, do you recall occurring on that Friday, sir?
Well, I spoke to a lawyer several times, and maybe the bondsman too. And Mark Kelly, the lawyer, told me that he thought there might be a hearing scheduled for the following Tuesday because the address on my license, which is the address I had given them in jail, was no longer proper because I had moved out of the apartment in Dallas last April, the previous April. And he said if I did not have a Texas residence, the bond would be revoked.
What action did you attempt to take, sir?
He said probably be best for me if I did not stay in the Galveston, Houston area because of all the media attention the case was getting. And he thought it would be better if I could rent an apartment in the building that I had been in initially in Dallas.
Did you attempt to do that?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to?
No, they said it was full, and they gave me the name of a broker when I asked for one.
You have seen Miss Shelley Cox testify in court. Is that the lady we are talking about?
Yes, sir.
And she basically described what went on between you and her?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Durst, I want to talk about another topic here. By that time, by the 11th or 12th, your best recollection of what was going on so far as the media was concerned?
Well, I had gone on the internet on Thursday and Friday, and there was New York newspapers and Texas newspapers on Thursday. And then on Friday, there was a bunch more newspapers and some television channels that were doing something or other. But on Saturday, it was everywhere. You put in the name Robert Durst, and you got 1 million hits, including the Dallas Morning News.
All right, sir. You had with you at the time something around $500,000 in cash, between $500,000 and $600,000 in cash. Now, I want to go back to bank accounts for just a minute. We have talked about Bank of America withdrawals here. Do you have bank accounts at a bank called HSBC?
Yes, sir.
I don't think they operate in Texas. Tell the jury what that bank is.
Oh, it's HSBC is the initials that you use, a conglomerate of a whole bunch of banks that gradually merged in California and in New York. I don't think they ever got down here, but that was the bank that Debbie uses the same bank. And that was the bank that Debbie had taken the power of attorney to the year before, when I had given it to her. And she had been paying my bills from that bank.
Do you believe any part of the money came from that bank or the bank accounts you had at that bank?
Yeah, probably about half of it.
Did you have a banking relationship with J.P. Morgan?
Yes, sir.
Did any part of the money come from J.P. Morgan?
The part that did not came from Bank of America or HSBC.
Then during Sunday the 14th of October, can you hear me okay, sir?
Yes, sir.
The 14th of October, did you make any decision about what to do?
I pretty much made the decision on Saturday the 13th that I was going to send the money to Debbie and I was going to leave New Orleans and head north.
And did you, in fact, on the 13th, then send the money to or extend a portion of the money to Deborah?
I took a couple of the Bank of America envelopes and I sent all the rest to Deborah, yes.
Well, when you were finally arrested, you had over $30,000 in your possession, sir. Do you know how much of it you took out of there that was still in a bowling bag?
I sent the bowling bag to Debbie. I took several of the envelopes.
Was there a label put on the FedEx package that was directed to Debbie?
Yes, sir.
And are those, to your knowledge, sir, are records kept by American Express when they send packages?
American Express?
Did I say American Express?
Yes, you did.
I mean Federal Express.
Yes, sir.
Is that the way you shipped it?
I took it to, had a different shipping store I told you about. The man from New Orleans identified.
Uh-huh.
And I gave it to them and gave them Debbie's address and I paid them to ship it.
All right, sir. I'm going to show you a copy that was generated at a later time and ask you whether or not it enables you to testify to summary fashion as to what the dates of the transaction was, sir.
10:13, 5:10:31 seconds p.m.
And is that a record of the actual transaction that you're testifying to, sir?
10021. Yes, that's Debbie's zip code.
And did you, in fact, with Federal Express on or about this date, ship this particular package to your wife, Deborah?
Yes.
Now that it is in evidence, I will read from it with the court's permission. Transaction date, 10/13/01, 5:10 p.m. Then it has a tracking number, a weight of 23 pounds, dimensions and whatnot for a total amount of the shipping of $84.35. All right, Mr. Durst. Then you have heard testimony by a gentleman here in court who testified you rented under Morris Black's name a vehicle in Mobile, Alabama. Do you remember that episode?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any other driver's licenses other than Morris Black's at the time?
No, sir.
Well, in your dealing with him, sir, did you show him a picture of Morris Black?
On the license, yes.
And were you who you are?
Yes.
By that time, you'd shaved your head in a disguise, sir.
Yes.
Did you pay him $2,500?
I paid him more than $4,000.
How now, during this entire period of time, sir, from the 28th up until this date, and I believe the records will indicate the date is Monday, October the 15th, when you first arrived, at least in Mobile, Alabama, first checked into a motel there, can you give us a picture, a word picture of your state of mind? How do you undo now when you try to recollect those events? What's it like?
I guess I can.
Well, do you have a full memory, a partial memory? What's it like when you try to remember?
I don't recall it clearly, if that's what you're asking.
That's what I am. Trying not to lead, I'm trying to ask you what it's like to try to testify about the events that happened after Morris is dead up to the point where you were in Mobile, Alabama. What's your recollection? What is your mind like? How do you feel in trying to reconstruct or look back on that period of time?
I would have specifically answer your type. It says, I would have specifically answer your type question. None of it really makes any sense to me.
Do you have any precise recollection of those days?
No.
Then did there come a time, sir, when you were arrested in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, stealing a chicken salad sandwich?
Yes, sir.
And a newspaper?
Yes, sir.
And a Band-Aid?
Yes, sir.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Be it remembered that upon this 27th day of October 2003, The following proceeding occurred before the Honorable Susan Crisp, Judge of the 212th District of Galveston County, Texas. Mr. Durst, you agree that your image before this jury is something very important to you?
I'm sorry, I did not hear the question.
I'll speak louder. Would you agree that your image before this jury is something that's very important to you?
Yes, sir.
And you testified that you are wearing clothes suggested by others, right?
I am sorry. I'm wearing clothes suggested,
Suggested by others.
yes, by my attorneys.
And is it just coincidence that your chair continuously is lowered every day at counsel table so that you appear smaller than anybody else?
No, sir. I adjust my chair to where it's comfortable for me, sir.
That's what's convenient for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this soft voice that you are presenting certainly doesn't seem like the voice of a man capable of killing his best friend in Galveston and dismembering him, does it?
I did not kill my best friend. I did dismember him. I'm speaking the same way I always speak, except I'm going to make an effort today to raise my voice because everyone tells me they can't hear me.
Well, you heard Mr. Hanley's testimony, didn't you?
Yes, sir, I did.
Is this the same voice that you told him, so this is one of those goddamn type of places?
I believe so, yes, sir.
So that was what scared him in your testimony?
I was not aware he was scared until he testified.
Okay, may I approach the witness? The court says yes. I'm showing you your booking photo, Mr. Durst. This is certainly not the way you look today, is it? States 590. You look a little bit different.
It looks like me.
It looks just like you?
Yes, sir.
You haven't lost any weight or anything?
I think I have lost weight, yes, sir.
That's not part of a scheme or anything, is it?
No, sir, it's not part of a scheme. And I don't know what you mean by scheme.
Well, maybe you could explain it to me, because I think you have agreed more than once that Morris Black's giving away glasses was a scheme. I haven't understood what you mean by that. Can you tell me what you mean by scheme?
If I said it was a scheme, then I spoke in a way I didn't mean to. I would not consider Morris Black's buying glasses and giving them away to be a scheme.
Do you recognize this? Have you had a chance to review your testimony from last week?
Yes, sir.
Did you cry when you were cutting up your best friend?
I don't know.
Do you have more of those I don't know answers for us? Do you remember anything about you cutting up Morris Black?
No, sir.
Okay. Regarding the visit to Mr. Hanley, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was it your testimony that Morris Black suggested that you go to the Jesse tree?
Yes, sir.
And it was Morris Black that suggested that you wrap your glasses with tape?
Yes, sir.
Just to disguise yourself?
Yes, sir.
You heard Mr. Hanley's testimony, didn't you? That he had known Morris Black for almost a year?
If that's what Mr. Hanley said, then that's what Mr. Hanley said.
Did you hear Mr. Hanley when he discussed having conversations with Morris on different things and kind of confiding in him a little bit?
Yes, sir.
You heard that Morris trusted Mr. Hanley, didn't you?
Morris trusted Mr. Hanley, yes, sir.
So maybe you can clear this up for me. Maybe I just didn't hear your testimony right. Why does Morris Black have to send you out to go check on the Jesse tree if he has already known this man a year and been dealing with him?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, sir.
You don't remember or just don't really know?
No, I remember when he asked me that I do that, and I didn't question him as to why. I just did it.
That's because you always did whatever Morris Black told you to do so?
No, sir.
But putting the tape over your glasses, as you described, you are sticking with that? That was Morris's idea?
Morris put the tape on the glasses.
When you went and visited Zena, the lady who cleaned your apartment, did Morris tell you to put tape on your glasses that day too, September 22nd?
Zena visited me.
I thought you went to your apartment to have it cleaned.
She visited me, I said.
Okay. And you had tape over your glasses? Do you remember that testimony?
I remember her testimony.
Did Morris tell you to put tape around your glasses that day?
I don't remember having tape on my glasses.
You heard her testimony that you had tape on your glasses,
I did.
but you don't remember that?
I don't think I had tape on my glasses.
But you did use a different name that day, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Did Morris tell you to do that?
No, sir.
There's like a... You shared with the jury numerous stories about him shooting handguns off the side of the boat. Is that your memory?
I told the jury that he had told me that when he was in the Merchant Marines, him and the other sailors would periodically throw things off the boat and shoot at them.
And in fact, you mentioned that he kind of liked to do the Clint Eastwood thing too, right?
Yes, sir.
So we got, based on what you have been told, he has 20 years experience every once in a while shooting guns off the side of a ship. Is that right?
What I said was that he shot guns in the Merchant Marines off the ship.
And he had been in the Merchant Marines for at least 20 years, to your knowledge. Is that correct?
You keep saying at least.
Well, you can tell me. You can correct me. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
He told me very little about it. But it seemed to me, my recollection is that he was in the Merchant Marines in the vicinity of 20 years. How much of that time he spent shooting guns off of a ship, I have no idea.
Well, I will agree with you certainly. He didn't do it for 20 straight years. That's fair, right?
Well, maybe he did. I don't know.
Okay, but you have indicated he knew a lot about guns, right? Y'all shared a common interest. I think that was your testimony.
He liked to read about guns. He knew about guns.
And he periodically had shot guns while he was in the Merchant Marines.
Yes, sir.
And you had shared with him the weapons you had, did you not? Wasn't that your testimony? He knew you had guns?
He knew I owned guns, yes.
And he knew what type of guns you had, didn't he?
I don't know that.
He never asked to see your guns even though he had this huge interest in guns?
I don't know if he knew or not, but I never showed him my guns until we went shooting out on Pelican Island.
Never saw your weapon until you went to Pelican Island?
That's correct.
And do you remember when we went to Pelican Island that first time?
We went and shot the 9mm just one time. And I think it was short of in the middle of March. I'm sorry, I misspoke. In the middle of July.
And that's the only time you shot the 9mm, the middle of July?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so with the other guns, did you go out there and shoot at Pelican Island?
The 22 that I bought.
Well, before you got the 22.
Just the 9mm that one time.
And just so I am clear on the record, you only went one time in the middle of July and shot the 9mm, and you never shot again until after you bought the 22. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. In your testimony, and I hope you can correct me again if I am wrong, you stated at one point that Morris didn't find out you had a lot of money, and then a little bit further down the line, you stated Morris knew you had a lot of money. Is there a difference between those two statements, or do they mean the same thing?
I assume they mean the same thing.
So either he didn't know you had a lot, or he did know you had a lot. Which did he know, and when did he know it?
After September 11th, I told him my correct name. Told him I was going to definitely buy a house here. And I told him some things about my family in New York. Now, prior to 9/11, from the time we became friendly, I would tell him about the things I was doing, the travels I was doing. He knew I stayed first class when I left Galveston, things like that. Now, whether that meant he knew I had a lot of money, or he knew I had a lot of money, enough money to travel, well, I have no idea.
When Mr. DeGuerin asked you last week at some point during the summer, did Morris Black become aware you had a lot of money? Do you remember your answer?
No, sir.
Is there anything particularly significant about something in the summertime of 2001 to you, other than shooting a gun in the middle of July?
No, sir.
July 25th, 2001. Nothing significant about that date to you?
Perhaps not there. July 25th 2001, if my memory serves me correctly, I was not in Galveston then. And what was significant about that day, I guess, I don't know what would be significant about that day. I think I was in New York or California.
You don't remember any particular television program coming on national TV?
No, sir.
And your testimony is Morse didn't learn anything else out about you in July of 2001 that you didn't already know?
I did not say that.
I'm sorry. I can't read your mind. Did he learn something else about you that made him think you could finance a building for the Jesse Tree in July of 2001?
He never, when I got back in the middle of August, he didn't say, "Hey, Bob, I just saw the such and such on television. You seem to be talking about some significant TV show, so I haven't any idea. I don't know. Maybe."
He gave you indication that he had seen something on TV, didn't he?
No, sir.
He didn't?
No, sir.
Okay, let's move along to the 22, the target pistol, okay? Now, it's your testimony that you bought that pistol because Morris Black couldn't handle the 9mm. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you only shot once between July and then after you bought the 22. Is that correct? Oh, you only shot one time, and that's the one time in July.
I only shot once with him. I might have shot myself other times between then.
That route you take to get to Pelican Island, can you see the place where you dumped the body from there when you cross the bridge?
I have no idea.
You never look to the right off and as you cross over that bridge to Pelican Island?
I have no idea if I looked over to the right or not.
Okay, I'm directing you back to your testimony on direct where you had indicated that Morris would put the gun by his hip, pull it up, and shoot at whatever he was shooting at. That was your Clint Eastwood impression, right?
I don't believe I said that he would do that whenever he shot it.
Well, which gun are we talking about that you saw him pull up all the time like Clint Eastwood and shoot?
The 22.
The 22? And y'all went shooting a lot of times with that 22, is that right?
I don't know a lot, but 6 to 10.
6 to 10 times. Okay. And that's all different days, right?
Yes, 6 to 10 times on different days.
And that's all days after October 30th? August 30th? Is that when you bought the gun?
Yes, sir.
So sometime after August 30th, 6 to 10 days, y'all routinely went every third day? That was your testimony, every third or fourth day?
I think I said every second or third day, or that's what I should have said.
So that would at least cover a 2-week period after August 30th, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir.
All right. In fact, in response to the question now, and so the next few weeks, we are getting closer to September. You and Morris shot on how many occasions? And your answer was every other third day, 6, 10, maybe something like that. Is that right?
Well, you were reading it.
May I approach the witness? The court says yes. Let me direct you to page 45 in your testimony about the 22. You were asked, when you say he did a Clint Eastwood, tell us what you mean. What was your answer?
Well, he would hold the gun down by his hip and pull it up and shoot at whatever he was shooting at.
And between the two of you, who shot the most rounds?
Oh, he would.
And then the question, the records show you bought 50 rounds of 22 shells when you bought the target pistol. How quickly did that go?
Oh, right away. It's just 4 or 5 magazines like that. Right away, I brought one of those big boxes of 22 shells.
And how many come in that box?
I don't know. Hundreds.
Hundreds or 500?
Maybe 500.
The next few weeks, we are getting close to September, you and Morris shoot on how many occasions?
Well, every other or every third day, 6, 10, maybe like that.
And if we make that getting close to September 11th, your answer is still the same, right? And so the next few weeks, we are now getting close to September 11th. If we change that, your answer is still the same, isn't it? If indeed the tape record reflects, as we are getting closer to September 11th, you and Morris shoot on how many occasions? Your answer today is still the same that you gave?
I don't know. I would have to look at this.
Quote, the next few weeks, we are now getting close to September 11th. You and Morris shoot...
That's the answer.
Oh, sorry.
The next few weeks, we are now getting close to September 11th. You and Morris shoot on how many occasions? Every other or every third day. Okay. Now, and so the next few weeks, we are now getting close to September 11th. You and Morris shoot.
And you agree with me on page 47, line 13. The question is, now, the September 11th, it's a yes or no?
That's what it says. Yes. Yes, it says that.
Mr. DeGuerin has come up and noted that it was cleared up on the next page on page 47, line 13. I'm merely asking you so it is in the record. It does say now the September 11th on line 13, page 47.
That's what it says on line 13.
Can you see that calendar?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Durst?
I certainly can.
Now, you have already testified. You didn't see Morris Black on the 24th.
Wait a second. You're saying what?
From my notes, it reflects, have you or have you not previously testified you did not see Morris Black the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, or the 27th? Is that correct?
No, it's not correct. My testimony did not say that.
Really?
I'm 99.99% sure. If it does say it, it should not say that.
Is that something you caught this weekend when you reviewed your testimony?
I didn't review the testimony. It literally says, I didn't review the testimony, I did review the testimony. And if that was in it, I would have caught it. So I think you are misstating.
Okay, we will come back to that. You agree you were in Houston the 19th through the 23rd, right?
Yes, sir.
Which day would you change on the 24th through the 27th?
I would definitely change the 24th. The 25th, the 26th, the 27th, I did not see Morris Black. I did not see Morris Black on the 23rd. I did see Morris Black on the 22nd. I did see Morris Black...
I'm sorry if I may interrupt you. So you're saying when you came down on the 22nd, you saw Morris Black?
Yes, sir.
Did you go shooting that day?
No, sir.
Okay, what's the other day you saw Morris Black?
The 24th.
And what happened that day?
He shot a gun towards my pantry, I believe, in my apartment.
Okay, so that's the second shooting day, is that correct?
In my apartment?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you have testified earlier, or let me ask the question that has been requested. Is it your testimony that on September 13th, you went to the Brooks Brothers in Houston and bought a suit for the wedding?
I don't think I got there that quickly. I don't believe it is my testimony that I went there on that day, but I do think it is my testimony that I went there on the 13th, 14th, 15th, or 16th.
One of these 3 days, at least, you weren't in Galveston because you went to Houston. Is that correct?
4 days.
13th, 14th, 15th, or 16th?
And it's not my testimony that I was not in Galveston because I went to Houston. It is my testimony that I would sleep in the apartment in Galveston, but that I would drive to Houston and I came back.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you go shooting on the 13th or whatever day you went and bought this suit?
I have no idea.
Okay, and you got the gun on this date. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
August 30th?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, 31 days. Thursday, the 30th. Is that correct? August 30th?
August 30th, I bought the gun.
All right, and the weeks that approached September 11th, you went shooting numerous occasions with Morris Black and shot 500 rounds of bullets. Is that correct?
I haven't any idea how many rounds of bullets I shot, but we shot after September 11th.
You went and shot some more after September 11th.
Yes, sir.
I thought you testified that Morris Black was consumed with September 11th and wouldn't stop watching television.
We went and shot after September 11th.
Well, which day did you throw him out of your apartment because he was consumed with the television and wouldn't stop watching it?
On September 11th, I told him he had to leave the apartment late at night or early in the morning because he wouldn't stop watching the television.
And I believe it was your testimony that you also said that was at the time he was driving the neighbors crazy because he was watching so much TV.
I don't know about the neighbors, but he was watching the television constantly in the days after September 11th.
Okay, and which of those days did you know him to be at Walmart? Do you remember telling us he was at Walmart watching the TV too?
September 11th, after I told him he had to leave my apartment, he went to Walmart. I know that because on September the 12th, when I woke up and he wanted to put on my television, he had just gotten back from Walmart and told me so.
Okay, so when did you go shooting, Mr. Durst? Can you tell us what days you went shooting between the day you bought the gun on September 11th?
No, I cannot tell you which days. What I said in the transcript was more or less accurate. It was every other or every third day, about like that.
Now, you have testified that on the 11th, you told him you were going to buy a house. You were going to start using your name and you were going to buy a house.
I told him I was considering buying a house after that, but on September 11th, I told him my right name, correct.
And which of these Sundays were y'all going to look at open houses together?
We looked at open houses many times in June, July, and August, like that. I just hadn't told him I was seriously considering buying a house.
So you weren't looking at any open houses on Sunday the 2nd or the 9th?
I suspect we were. That was one of the things we did. We frequently looked at open houses.
So the night on the 16th, you think maybe you looked at some open houses?
Very possibly.
So you wouldn't be shooting on the night of the 16th then?
I don't know why we wouldn't.
You would go look at houses and go shoot?
That sounds like a big day. I'm sorry I don't see the conflict with these things you keep bringing up.
I'm trying to figure out your testimony about how often you went shooting with the .22.
We would go at daybreak, and we would stay an hour, and we would come back.
But you still can't tell me what days you went shooting with the .22, can you?
No, I did not keep track of which days we went shooting.
Mr. Durst, do you recall testifying that Morris was driving everybody crazy with the TV being on? Do you recall saying that or not?
I don't recall that. I should have said driving me crazy.
All right. And just so I'm clear on this, you were looking at houses before September 11th too, also, is that correct?
Yeah, all summer we would frequently go to the open houses.
And Mr. Black never had any of those bad reactions that you testified to on these occasions when you were visiting the houses?
No, he would get in arguments with the people, yes, sir.
Okay.
Now and then.
Would he get thrown out of the house you were visiting also?
I don't remember that happening, no, sir.
Do you have anything else you want to say about Morris being thrown out of places?
No, sir.
We move along to September 17th. That's the date of the first alleged gunshot by Morris Black in your apartment, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is it correct that that was late in the afternoon when you were watching your TV?
Yes, sir. Early in the evening, perhaps.
And where are you then when you hear that gunshot?
In my bathroom.
And you opened the door?
Yes, sir.
And you walk out of the bathroom or not?
Yes, sir.
You do walk out.
Yes, sir.
So if you had earlier testified that you just opened the door and immediately saw him, that would be incorrect?
Oh, I could see him immediately when I opened the door.
And that's because he was standing where?
He was standing over by the television.
You did see the eviction notice that we introduced, though, did we not?
Yes, sir.
Now, was that thing taped? That eviction notice, was it taped to the arch or pinned to the arch?
I don't know.
You don't know.
No, sir.
Did you not take a good look at it?
I just glanced at it.
And your testimony is that you took the key from him, is that correct?
That's correct. That's not my testimony. That is what I did. That is what happened.
I don't mean to make you angry.
Sorry.
Really?
I'm sorry that I got angry if I got angry.
Okay, well, what is your recollection then? That he took the key or not?
My recollection, I took the key.
You took the key.
I took the key.
All right, you took the key. Did you take the eviction notice?
No.
Do you have an explanation why that eviction notice was found in the trash can in the stuff that you threw?
I remember when I threw out Morris Black's things, I threw it in the trash can.
Is that a guess, or you just don't remember, or what? I'm not sure I understand your answer.
I remember throwing out Morris Black's things. I don't remember specifically throwing out the eviction notice.
Okay, so it makes sense, does it not, that he must have still had that eviction notice on September 28th?
Yes, sir.
What was it in your apartment or his apartment?
His apartment.
You remember finding that notice in his apartment on September 28th?
No, sir.
Well, you remember finding that notice in his apartment.
No, sir.
How do you answer the question that it was in his apartment?
It was not in my apartment.
Is your testimony you don't know where you found that eviction notice?
My testimony is I threw out the things in his apartment.
Okay, you heard Mrs. Rabago say that she didn't hear 2 shots or 2 firecracker sounds, didn't you?
Yes.
You heard Mrs. Rabago say that she heard 2 shots or 2 firecracker sounds, didn't you?
Yes.
Do you have any explanation for that?
No, sir.
Is your memory such that you just don't recall or you just don't have an explanation?
I don't know what she heard.
Why did you come back as James Closty when you visited Zena, or excuse me, she visited with you, Robert Closty?
I just made up a name to give her.
You couldn't be Robert Durst at 2213 Avenue K, could you?
I could. I just made up a name to give her.
And that's the same day as the wedding?
Yes, sir.
And that's the same day you went to the eye doctor at Walmart, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you look at any houses with Morris while you were checked into the Four Seasons in Houston?
On the 19th?
Right. I think you were checked in the 19th through what date?
Through the 23rd.
Did you come down and look at any houses then or not?
I did. I don't remember if Morris went with me or not. As a matter of fact, I am almost certain that we looked at the one on the corner of... I don't remember which day exactly, but one of those days we looked at the house on the corner of 23rd and Avenue K.
Okay, September 24th, you indeed did see Morris, according to your recollection. You saw Morris on September 24th. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that's the gunshot number 2. Incident number 2, according to you. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what time of day was that?
It was in the morning, sometime or other, relatively early in the morning.
Do you remember what time?
8 or 9 o'clock, like that.
8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning?
Probably closer to 9.
And you drove to the temple. Is that your testimony?
I drove to the temple. That's what I did.
That was a religious week, was it not? Wasn't that a religious week in the Jewish religion, significant days that week?
I think Yom Kippur was right around there. Yes, sir.
Do you remember the date of Yom Kippur?
I don't remember the date of Yom Kippur.
Do you go to the temple on Yom Kippur?
I don't think I did go to the temple on Yom Kippur.
Okay, how about Morris? Do you know if Morris went to the temple on Yom Kippur?
I don't know.
Did you or Morris, either one, go to the temple the week of September 24th through September 27th, 28th?
I don't remember my going to the High Holy Day services that year.
But you did just go there to park your car. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And when you came in, he gave you the key back right away. Is that right?
I saw that in the transcript. I believe when I first came in, I told him I wanted the key back.
You saw in the transcript where he said he gave you the key back right away, didn't he?
In the transcript, I said he gave me the key back both when I first came in and when I took the pistol away from him.
Well, you have been looking for your conflicts in here too, haven't you?
I had been looking to see where the transcript was different from my memory.
Are you telling us today that last week you did not testify that he gave the key back to you right away? Is that your...
I definitely must have. It's in the transcript.
Well, that was your memory last week, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. No, my memory last week is what is in the transcript. And my memory this week is the same.
That he gave you the key right away?
And that I took it away from him after he shot the pistol.
I didn't hear that last week. Is that some new information we need to know about?
I think it's in the transcript last week.
That you took the key away from him after he shot?
And when I first got into the apartment.
You gave the key back to him after he immediately gave it to you?
No, I am saying they can't both be right. I do remember I got into the apartment. He was there. I said, "You're not supposed to be here." He had a big smirk on his face. I took the key away from him and I let him stay. I also remember that when I grabbed the pistol out of his, or when he gave me the pistol, after he shot the bullet towards the pantry, I believe I said, "Give me the key." I am now sitting here today. I don't know which happened.
Is that a result of too much alcohol or marijuana or just a bad memory?
I don't know which it's a result of, but sitting here today, I remember taking the key away from him as soon as I walked into the apartment, and I remember asking for the key and him giving it to me after he shot the gun. I remember them both.
And you agree there was a conflict in those?
Absolutely, there's a conflict.
Would you also agree that taking the keys away from Morris is an important part of your testimony?
Taking the key away from him is an important part of my testimony.
Yes, sir.
I'm testifying as to what I remember happening.
Okay, you heard Mrs. Rabago. You shot the gun twice on September 8th, didn't you, Mr. Durst? September 28th, didn't you?
On September 28th, the two of us struggled over the gun and it went off once early in the morning.
Was it your belief that Morris was totally not expecting you to come back to the house on the 28th?
Yes.
And why did you believe that?
I hadn't been there all week. I went on the 26th in the afternoon before the eye doctor. I had not seen him all week. I hadn't been there since the 24th, to his knowledge anyway. I don't think he was expecting me. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, you left the TV there, right?
I left all the furniture there.
VCR?
Well, the TV and the VCR are one animal.
Bicycle?
Bicycle.
Isn't the TV the one thing that gets Morris Black in your apartment over and over again?
He liked to watch television, yes, sir.
And you left the TV for a reason, didn't you?
I left the TV for the same reason I left the rest of the furniture there.
It wasn't your attempt to get Morris Black in your apartment, isn't it? Or is it?
It certainly was not my attempt to get Morris Black into my apartment.
You said that you went over there on the 26th.
Say it again?
You went to 2213 Avenue K on the 26th, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What time of day was that?
Right before the eye doctor, which I think was early in the afternoon, 2 o'clock-ish, maybe.
And other than the 24th, what other day of the week had you been over to 2213 Avenue K?
Just the 26th.
Okay, let's take you to September 28th then. Why did you go to 2213 Avenue K that morning?
I went there to get the bicycle eventually. I think I was going to lie down for a while. It was early in the morning. I didn't have anywhere else to go.
Do you remember last week saying you went because you hadn't ridden the bike in a couple of days and you wanted to ride the bike? Do you remember that?
If that's what I said, that's what I said.
Where did you keep your bike?
It depends upon how much I was riding it. Those days, I was keeping it in the apartment in the kitchen.
And would those days include when Zena came down to clean your apartment?
I had taken the bike out of the apartment so she could clean it. I put it in the car that day.
So that's why she didn't see it, because it was in your car?
I guess.
Okay, you hear the TV, is that correct, as you open the very front door to get into the house?
As soon as I am in the house, I hear the TV. Yes, sir.
All right, you open the door with the key again, right?
Yes, sir.
You see Morris, is that right?
That's right.
And then you shut the door,
I swung the door shut. Yes, sir.
and you go straight to the kitchen because he is looking at you. I believe your testimony was he was looking mean at you.
Yes, sir.
And you had never gotten the gun, is that right?
Say it again.
You had never gotten that gun, the .22?
I'd never taken the gun out since the... Yes?
And you think he has it, don't you?
No, I think it's in the broiler part of the oven.
You don't think he has the gun when you go by him?
No.
When does it become first apparent to you that he has the gun then?
When it's not in the broiler.
That's when you turn and ask him, where's the gun? Where's the gun?
Yes, sir.
And when you see the gun, what is your immediate response at that point?
Give me the gun.
Are you in fear for your life?
I'm in fear for my life. Yes, sir.
And you are watching the gun, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
You grab hold of the barrel, right?
I grab hold of his hand and the barrel.
With one hand?
Yes, sir.
So you are holding both his hand and the barrel with one hand.
Yes, sir.
And you're trying to keep that gun away from you, right?
Trying to take it away from him.
Are you ever in fear that that gun is about to go off in your face or not?
I am afraid that the gun is going to shoot me.
Life or death situation for you, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Why did you take the time to look down at his feet?
I didn't look down at his feet.
Well, you made a point in your testimony saying Morris's foot got caught on the chair leg, which happened to be numerous times when I was sitting at the table, and would turn around and go to the kitchen. That was a significant part of your testimony, wasn't it? Right in the middle of your demonstration. You saw his feet get tangled in a chair and you trip?
No. I felt him trip. I think my testimony is clear on that. I said I felt him. When your associate asked me if I looked at his feet, I said no.
That story about the chair legs, that's just your excuse to get Morris on the floor, isn't it?
No. Repeatedly, he and I would trip over the chair leg. Whoever was sitting in that chair would turn around to go to the kitchen. I felt him trip over the chair leg.
So how close were you standing to him then for you to feel him trip over the...
I was holding him. I was holding his shoulder, and I was holding his hand and the gun.
The truth is, he has got to hit the floor on his back to account for those bruises that we have to the back of Mr. Black, didn't he?
I don't know where he got the bruises on his back.
You had nothing to do with the bruises in the middle of his back?
If he got them when he fell down, then he got them when he fell down.
The bruises on the top of his shoulders?
I don't know where he got the bruises. I can only say we fell down.
Let's talk about what you did immediately after that then. According to you, you ran up the stairs, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Can you demonstrate for us what you did at the top of the stairs?
I went almost straight ahead, but a little bit to the right, to where the door was, and I grabbed the doorknob and I knocked on the door. I don't know which hand I knocked with.
And that's all the knocking you did?
I might have knocked a little bit longer. I might have knocked.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear the beginning of your answer.
I might have knocked a little bit longer. I might have knocked with both hands.
The court says we are going to take our break now. The court says you may proceed. Mr. Durst, right before the break, you had indicated, I may have miscounted, but it appeared that you knocked in your demonstration about 8 times on the door. Is that right? Or you think you knocked more? I just want to make sure we leave here with the right thing.
I don't really remember how many times I knocked. I knocked for more or less what I did before.
Okay, is it your recollection that you also said something while you were at the top of the stairs?
Yes.
Okay, and what is it that you said?
He said, I have to call 911. I have to call 911.
And you moved into that apartment in what month? November of 2000?
Yes, sir.
And during that entire time, you didn't know that Henriquez lived at the door to the left at the top of the stairs?
During that entire time? Yes.
You did know they were to the left.
I knew they lived upstairs.
Upstairs or to the left? Which did you know? I apologize.
I knew they lived in the one apartment upstairs.
And you never saw her coming and going from the door at the left of the top of the stairs?
I never... Correct.
And you had never been to the top of those stairs before that morning, September 28th. Is that right or wrong? Or is that, yeah.
I don't think I ever went on those stairs at all.
And the light was off, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You reach the top of the stairs and you go which way, left or right?
I went more or less straight ahead.
Okay, and then you did what?
And I did what I said I did. I knocked on the door and I yelled, I have to call 911.
And you said that 3 times or
Maybe.
maybe 3, maybe less?
Maybe less, maybe more.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor? The court says yes. I'm showing you what's been marked for identification purposes, Mr. Durst, as 597. If you would, just take a look at that briefly. 598, 599, 600, and 601. Is this the area that you are testifying that you went to the top of the stairs?
This is taken from the top of the stairs?
Yes, sir. I've tried to put it in sequence here. As you approach the top of the stairs, you can see this, and you can see that, and the beginning of the door. And then there's the door.
Yes, sir.
And that you recognize these as being at the top of the stairs, right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Durst, showing you 597. This is what is at the top of the stairway, correct? In your apartment? You can either go left or go right at that point. Is that correct? When you reach the top?
Yes, sir.
And would you agree 598 shows what's to the left, the Henriquez's door?
Yes, sir.
And 599 shows what is generally to the right?
That's essentially straight ahead, but it's a little to the right. Yes, sir.
But you do see a door, at least beginning in 599?
Yes, sir.
And that's the door you went to, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's door what? That's the door you beat on there at 600?
Yes, sir.
And 601 is where you stood and beat some 8 to 10 times and yelled at least 3 times, I need 911.
Yes, sir.
You have lived in that apartment on and off since November of 2000, correct?
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I am wrong, but hadn't you had an opportunity to look up those stairs hundreds of times?
I have had an opportunity, certainly.
You just didn't know the Henriquez's door was to the left?
No, sir.
May I approach again? The court says yes. Just another self-serving lie, isn't it, Mr. Durst? That you knocked on the little door on the right?
No,
It's not a lie?
it's not a lie.
Well, if you wake the Henriquez's up by knocking at their door, which is depicted in States 598, your little alibi doesn't work anymore, does it?
I wish I had knocked on the right door, and it's not a little alibi.
Well, you would at least agree if they had awakened at your alleged knocks, you would have to get the help you needed.
If I had knocked on the right door, I would have gotten the help I needed. I believe that to be true.
You had never been in their apartment either, had you? You had never been in their apartment.
No, sir.
Okay, do you know what's on the other side of the door in States 601?
I have no idea.
Do you know what's on the other side of that little hallway that you were standing in and beating the door on the other side of that hallway?
You're saying the other side of the door?
On the other side of the wall in that hall where you were standing.
No, sir.
Would you be surprised to learn that's the Henriquez's bedroom?
I don't know if I would be surprised. Don't know. Would I be surprised? I would not be surprised.
Okay, from the top of the stairs, you go where next, Mr. Durst?
I go down the stairs.
Immediately out the door or back into your apartment?
No, down the stairs until maybe the third or fourth stair from the bottom, at which point I thought I heard something upstairs.
Okay, and that's when you turned and say something again, is that correct?
That's correct.
And what did you say at that point?
I think I said, hello, hello.
And after that, what happened next?
I opened the front door to the building. I ran down the steps to the walkway, took a left on the sidewalk. I ran down the sidewalk to the telephone at Charlie's Burgers.
Okay, and it's correct, isn't it, that you had used that phone many times? That's what you have testified to, right?
Yes, sir.
That was a familiar phone for you, and you took advantage of it often, right?
Took advantage of it?
You went and used it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but your explanation is you don't know which house you knocked on. The door?
I do now.
You know which house you knocked on?
Yes, sir.
I thought last week you said you weren't sure which house you knocked on when you came back from the payphone.
Last week I was reporting what I knew when this happened on September 28th of 2001. Today, on October 27th of 2003, I know.
And that's after after review of your testimony?
No, that's after, well, I mean, I knew a long time before now, once the lawyers went over with me what it is between the houses and what the doors look like, I was immediately able to tell which house I must have gone to.
But didn't you tell us last week that you didn't even know there were two houses between you and Charlie Burgers?
Yes, when this happened, I did not know how many houses there were.
So between November of 2000 and September 28th of 2001, many trips to the Charlie's Burgers phone, you didn't know there were two houses between you and Charlie Burgers.
I'm not a very observant person.
Okay.
I don't know how many houses there are the other way to this day.
You don't go that way to use the telephone, do you?
But I went that way at least as many times as the other way.
Well, today then, which house did you knock on the door?
The Rabagos.
Okay, and this was tell us, what time did that happen?
My rough estimate is it must have been around 6:15.
And that's based on when you arrived at the temple that morning.
When I left the car, yes, sir.
And were you listening to the radio show about stocks or whatever it was on the way to the temple?
Yes, sir.
And you drove from the San Luis that morning?
Yes, sir.
And that show starts at 5:45?
I don't know to be tied down to that, but it ends at 6.
Well, according to your testimony last week, that show starts at 5:45 and runs to 6 o'clock.
I would like to think I said I think it starts at 5 or about 5. I know it runs to 6.
And what time did you get at the temple?
When I left the car, the businessy show was still on.
Sometime before 6 o'clock?
Yes.
And then you go jog the mile or whatever it is over to 2213 Avenue K.
Yes.
Okay, you go in, this thing happens, you run to the top of the stairs, and you run out. So you think you are knocking at what, 6:15?
I think it all happened around 6:15. Yes, sir.
Okay, after you knock on, well, tell us, how many times did you knock on the Rabagos' door?
I think sort of similar to I did at the top of the stairs.
The same demonstration then, would you account?
As I said, something similar to that is what my best guess would be.
And I notice you're talking softer again. How loud were you talking?
I'm sorry. I had been telling myself I should speak up. Should I? I believe I knocked on the Rabagos' door about the same time as amount of times as I knocked at the door at the top of the stairs.
And the words that you yelled at the Rabagos' house, if any?
I don't think I yelled anything. I think I just knocked.
Just knocked?
Yes, sir.
Was there a porch light on there?
Yes, sir.
You left there and went back to where?
I went back to 2213.
Was the door to your apartment shut or open?
Open.
And what happened at that point again, then?
I went into the apartment, and Morris Black was lying on the floor halfway between my kitchen and my living room. And his head was now in a small puddle of blood. And I grabbed his arms, and I shook him, and there was no response. And I put my hand over his mouth and nose, and there was no breathing that I could discern. And I grabbed his wrist, and I did not feel anything moving.
And you were doing this all with the door open?
Of my apartment? Yes, sir.
And after you check Morris out, what happens next?
We just sat down on the bed.
And left the door open?
Yes, sir.
And is that when you fall into your depths of despair for hours?
I don't know what I did then. I just sat there with mine.
All right, we're going to take a recess until 3:15. Ladies and gentlemen, do not converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this case. Do not go or express